When we talk about change, about growth, about becoming more than what we are right now, people tend to imagine dramatic breakthroughs. They imagine that one day they will wake up and everything will be different. They wait for some miracle, a single event that will suddenly push them into a new life. But the truth, perhaps the most uncomfortable truth, is that transformation doesn't come like that. It is not delivered in grand gestures. It emerges instead through the tiny, seemingly insignificant actions that you repeat day after day. Think about how the human mind is shaped. You are not a collection of isolated events. You are a pattern, a set of habits, thoughts, and actions that have been reinforced over time. Every time you repeat an action, no matter how small, you lay down another thread in that pattern. So if you choose to write down 3 things you're grateful for each night, that act might feel trivial in the moment, but over weeks, months, years, that pattern reshapes the very lens through which you perceive the world. Gratitude becomes automatic. You don't force yourself to be positive. You become the kind of person who sees positivity everywhere. That's not magic, it's psychology. The same principle applies to physical health. 10 push-ups might feel laughable compared to the image of someone running a marathon, but 10 push-ups repeated daily over a year, that's more than 3,500 push-ups. What seemed too small to matter becomes a foundation of strength, both physically and mentally. You teach yourself discipline, you prove to yourself that effort compounds, and you build trust in your own ability to follow through. That trust in yourself, earned in private, through those small wins, is what will carry you through the larger challenges. And notice something else. The brain rewards progress, not perfection. When you accomplish even a minor goal, your mind releases dopamine. That's the neurochemical of motivation. It's your brain's way of saying, do more of this. Small wins create a positive feedback loop. You act, you succeed, you feel rewarded, and you're driven to act again. Large goals often fail to motivate because the reward is too far away. You can't feel progress if the target is 5 years into the future. But small wins keep your psychology engaged in the present. They anchor your attention in what you can do right now, not in some distant fantasy. Philosophically, this points to something deeper. Human beings have always wrestled with the idea of meaning. We want life to matter, but we often think meaning must come from extraordinary achievements. Yet most lives are not extraordinary in the way we imagine. Most of us will not be world champions or global icons, but that doesn't make life meaningless. In fact, meaning is built precisely in the small domains you can control. How you speak to your child, how you treat your work, how you order your own inner chaos one day at a time. To win in these small domains is to win at life itself, because if you cannot handle what is in front of you today, what makes you think you will be prepared for something greater tomorrow? Consider the story of the person who wants to write a book. If they sit around waiting for inspiration to strike, the book will never be written. But if they commit to writing 200 words every day, an amount so small it seems almost absurd, within a year they will have 70,000 words. That's a book. Not because they produced some miraculous burst of genius, but because they respected the power of small, consistent effort. There's a kind of humility required here. You have to accept that you're not going to conquer the entire mountain in a single day. You start by climbing a single step, then another, and another. Humility, consistency, discipline, these are not glamorous words, but they are the bedrock of genuine success. And every step you take, however small, is a vote for the person you want to become. So don't dismiss the little actions. Don't underestimate the tiny routines that shape your mornings or the brief choices that shape your evenings. Those are not insignificant details. They are the architecture of your life. Over time, they will determine whether you live trapped in mediocrity or elevated by discipline. And if you need a final reminder, remember this: the person you are tomorrow is built from the small wins you choose today. Never overlook the step right in front of you, because that step is the path. Small wins are not small. They are the seeds of a big life. Perfect sin is one of the great illusions of our age. It's a word we throw around as if it represents the highest possible standard, but in reality, it often becomes a trap. People think they can't begin until they're perfect. They can't act until they're fully ready. They can't create until they have the ideal conditions. And so they sit still, waiting, imagining a flawless version of themselves that never arrives. What they fail to realize is that perfection is not the goal of life, it is the excuse we invent to avoid the discomfort of progress. Progress, by contrast, is messy. It is uneven, filled with mistakes, stumbles, corrections, and restarts. But that is exactly why it matters. Human beings are not designed to leap fully formed into excellence. We are built to grow, to refine, to sharpen ourselves through trial and error. The psychologist Carl Jung once said that the fool is the precursor to the savior. In other words, you must first accept being foolish, imperfect, vulnerable, before you can hope to move toward wisdom or strength. Without those small, imperfect beginnings, there can be no greatness. This is where the concept of redefining victory comes in. If you measure success only by monumental achievements, then most of your life will feel like failure. Think about it. How many times in your life will you achieve a massive goal? Once a year, once a decade, maybe never. If that's your standard, then almost all of your days will be filled with disappointment. But if you learn to see victory in progress and the daily forward movement, however small, you unlock a much more powerful way of living. Suddenly, each day offers you a reason to celebrate. Each step becomes meaningful because it is a step away from stagnation and toward growth. There's a psychological truth here. Motivation is not sustained by distant fantasies. The human mind simply can't hold on to a reward that feels far away. But it can hold on to small markers of progress. That's why checking off a to-do list feels satisfying, even if the task was minor. That's why finishing a page of writing or going for a punt 10-minute run lifts your mood. Your mind responds to progress in the present. If you redefine victory this way, you're no longer hostage to the impossible standard of perfection. You can succeed every day as long as you move forward. And this is not just about productivity, it's about identity. When you make progress, you begin to see yourself as someone who can change. That shift in self-perception is critical. If you define yourself by perfection, you will always see yourself as a failure, because perfection is unattainable. But if you define yourself by progress, you see yourself as someone capable of growth, and that belief reinforces itself. Each small success strengthens your sense of agency, and that agency is what builds resilience. Think about the person who wants to overcome social anxiety. If they demand perfection, never stuttering, never feeling nervous, they will never try. But if they redefine victory as simply starting a conversation, even if it's awkward, they can build momentum. Each attempt is progress. Over time, the fear diminishes and confidence grows. The same applies to careers, relationships, health, or any personal pursuit. The moment you stop chasing flawless performance and start valuing steady progress, you unlock the power to transform. Philosophically, this also reflects the human condition. Life is not about reaching a static state of perfection. It is about movement. To live is to change, to adapt, to struggle towards something better. Perfection is a still image, a frozen ideal, but life is not still. Life is a stream, a process. If you cling to the illusion of perfection, you remove yourself from life itself. But if you embrace progress, you align yourself with reality. You step into the flow of growth, which is where meaning resides. And perhaps this is why small wins matter so deeply. They give you evidence that you are not stuck, that you are capable of becoming more than you were yesterday. They whisper to you that even though you are imperfect, you are not powerless. You are moving, and in that movement there is hope. So the call here is simple. Stop waiting for the day when you will be perfect. That day will never come. Instead, recognize the quiet victory that exists in today's effort. However small, recognize that the act of trying, of improving, of moving forward is itself the highest form of success. Because in the end, the person who demands perfection achieves nothing, but the person who honors progress builds a life. Remember this as you walk away tonight. Perfection will paralyze you, but progress will free you. Choose progress. Always progress.